All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to yet another Aurelian Coaching webinar. So for those of you who have been participating in these webinars, I do them, every few weeks or so. Welcome back. And for those of you who have never done this before, never participated in any of these, a really big welcome to you guys. It's such a pleasure to have new people in on these webinars every time I do them. I welcome comments in the chat for Zoom. If you guys, everybody is familiar with Zoom these days. I actually had my parents on Zoom. I had my daughter had her 7th birthday during this pandemic, and the way to have a party for her was to get everybody on Zoom. And my parents did it. I was so happy. They were pretty funny about it, but so you guys should be familiar with Zoom by now, right? So if you guys have questions, go ahead and put those in the chat box and I'll take them as we go. My name is Nicole Coustier. I am the founder of Aurelian Coaching. I specialize in career strategy, and I'm also a certified life coach. So what I say is there's nothing that I can't help you with. I really do challenge people to come with their toughest questions to me, and I will find a way. We will find a way to help you through it. Okay, so today's webinar topic is being proactive in uncertain times. And like most of my other webinar topics, the reason I'm doing it here is because I'm hearing about it with all of my clients. So I have a lot of people who are navigating uncertainty, navigating ambiguity, and they're really struggling. They feel very paralyzed and just unsure about making decisions. And when I ask them about why they feel so paralyzed, they tell me a couple of things. One is that there's this concern about the permanence of making a decision. That once you make a decision, that you're tied to it and you can't really backtrack or adjust or refine or anything like that, right? So they're scared about the permanence of their decision or this sort of long-term impact of a decision. The other thing that I hear is people who say, well, I can't make a decision because I can't see that far into the future. This whole situation that we're in is carrying so much uncertainty that I can't predict how this is all going to end. And that's hamstringing me in terms of making a decision for my job, for my family, for my own well-being. Because I can't see the end of the tunnel, I don't want to make a decision. I don't want to make the wrong decision. And I can't make a decision until I see farther ahead. Okay, so those are the objections that I'm hearing from my clients. And so what I am coaching them through is, well, what's the alternative? What's the alternative? The alternative is they're spending a lot of time and a lot of money on a coach because nothing's changing, right? The alternative to making a decision is you continue to be at the effect of everything that is coming your way, right? So one thing that people are feeling, they're feeling like they're on the defensive all the time. That is actually the term that one of my clients used with me. I constantly feel like I'm on the defensive. And somebody else used the term, they feel like they're under siege, right? And they can't get ahead. They can't get in front. They're constantly being reactive. They're constantly responding, right? And by the time the day ends, they feel so completely drained. And the next day they get up and do it all over again. Yeah, there's got to be something else, right? There's got to be something else. And so The something else is actually being proactive rather than exclusively reactive. And so that's what the topic is today. And I'm going to walk you through it, and I'm going to give you an exercise. Okay, so I don't anticipate this webinar being a whole hour. I reserved the hour, okay, but we're going to end early, okay, unless there are tons of questions. And I don't have any of those yet, which is good. So if we end up wrapping up early, I don't want you to go do something else. Okay, what I want you to do is do the exercise. Take the 5 minutes that it's going to take to do the exercise so that you come out of this actually having made a decision that works for you. Okay. So one thing that I want to talk about is actually the difference between reactive and proactive. The way I'm using proactive is probably not the general term that most people use. When I say proactive, I mean making a decision for yourself, just for yourself. Okay, so a lot of people are using the word proactive to say that they want to get ahead of something. They just, they want to make a decision to mitigate a lot of negative things from either other people or external circumstances or whatever situation that they're in. And I understand that. And in business circles, you do a lot of that, right? You are planning ahead, and being proactive is a way of being prepared. So I get that. That is not what I'm talking about in these terms. What I want to offer is being proactive and making decisions to be proactive is really about taking care of yourself and making a decision for the one thing that you have total control over, and that is yourself. Okay, so that's number one. I define proactive as making a decision for yourself. Okay, not making a decision for your family or for your job or, to offset, the circumstances that you're finding yourself in, just for yourself. Here's the other thing that I want you to consider when thinking about being proactive. And that is that it doesn't have to be a big thing. A lot of people think of being proactive as this huge thing. Like, you want to be proactive with your career, right? That's what I coach a lot of people on, is being more proactive in their career. Well, that sounds like a big thing right now. Okay. So try not to think of this in terms of huge decisions and sea change. There's already sea change all around us. Okay. These are crazy times. What I'm talking about is that you can be proactive in very small, manageable ways, right? Making sound decisions for yourself in just small ways can have huge upsides for you. Huge. And so I'll give some examples of that. The third thing that I want to talk about is actually that, so some of my clients, when I'm coaching them through being proactive in these crazy uncertain times, is they say that they don't even have the energy for it, that they're constantly on the defensive. That's how they feel. And that because of that, they don't have the time or the energy or the space to actually be proactive. They cannot see any opportunity for them to be proactive. It just seems like a monumental task to be proactive in this time. And so here's what I want to tell you. That being proactive does not take any more energy or time than constantly being on the defensive. And in fact, what you'll find is the more proactive you are, even in small ways, small favorable decisions that you make for yourself actually helps to relieve so much of the energy drain and the time drain that being on the defensive and being reactive constantly has for you. So, you know, some people don't believe me. So I'll say this, that when I ask my clients, well, how much time are you thinking about all this stuff? And they say, well, no, I don't think about it that, you know, I'm not thinking about this constantly. It's something that's kind of in the back of my mind. And then I catch them and I was like, look, if it's in the back of your mind all the time, then what is happening with your body physically and what's happening with your schedule is that you're distracted, you're less efficient, you're less productive. Your productivity actually goes down. And there are some physical effects to this, most notably sleep, right? So people don't realize that they are sleeping less, or they don't attribute it to this question of constantly being reactive versus proactive. If they're losing sleep, or if their sleep quality is going down, or if they have interrupted sleep, I'm like, you know what? All of that counts. All of that counts. And it sucks. And I promise you this, if you start to make small proactive decisions for yourself, you will relieve a lot of that energy drain. And so here's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to do a little exercise. And the reason I came up with this exercise is because I had to do it myself. Listen, anything that I coach other people on, I do myself, okay? So I recently had this question come up for me, and it had to do with my schedule, where the schedule that I had been on wasn't working for me for a number of reasons. It wasn't working for my family. And I was a little paralyzed because one of the things that I was grappling with was I had a number of options for how to adjust my schedule, and none of them were quite right? None of them were perfect. And so I didn't make a decision. Does this sound familiar, right? When there isn't the brilliant answer that's going to solve all your problems, if that is not evident, then you continue to be passive, right? So you don't make a proactive decision. And then what happens? You get up the next day and you have the same experience. This was happening to me, right? And it was a series of days, a series of weeks where the idea was, well, I would go to bed at night and tomorrow, well, I hope tomorrow's better, right? I hope. I'm not actually doing anything differently. I'm not making a proactive decision about how I'm going to show up differently the next day. I'm just saying, I hope tomorrow's schedule is better than what I experienced today. And just, I cross my fingers. Yeah, the cross your fingers approach, yeah, it doesn't work, right? Not over the long term, okay? And so for me, I went through this exercise, I'll share it with you guys, which is how to begin to make more proactive decisions for yourself and be okay with it not being perfect. It's like having one of those the little miner helmets with the light on the helmet, right? Because you can't see all the way down the tunnel, right? But when you take a step, you can see a little bit farther down. And then you take another step and you can see a little bit farther down. And what this exercise does, it's super interesting. When I've taken my own clients through it, what ends up happening is the one decision that they make, and it doesn't have to be a monumental decision. It can be a really simple decision. But the decision that my client makes suddenly illuminates a lot more possibilities that they could not have foreseen. They could not possibly have seen prior to making the decision. It's just that they had to put themselves in a different place in order for everything else to open up. Okay. And this is what happened with me as well with my schedule. So I stopped just hoping that the next day was going to be better. And this is the thing, it's very deceiving, right? Because sometimes what happens? The next day is better. Oh, well, then this isn't really a problem. And that was just a bad day. Yeah. No. Okay. Being proactive means you can do something for yourself, okay, where you have total control and you are not trying to fix everything else around you because you can't. Okay, so here's the exercise. Are you ready? Okay. So you will just need a sheet of paper for this. It's not more complicated than that. But I want you to do some brainstorming around what types of things you'd like to change. Okay, so these can be small things, these can be big things, these can be anything with respect to your job or your work conditions in this crazy time, or about your career longer term. It could be about your kids. It could be about your elderly parents. It could be about the relationship with your spouse. It could be your living situation. It could be how you're not seeing your friends right now. It could be anything. But remember, the brainstorming that you're doing here is not what can you change externally. It is only what do you want? What do you want that you could potentially influence or change? Don't worry about how, okay? That's not this. This is just the things that you'd like to change. And so do this for like 3 minutes. If you're familiar with my work, okay, or if you've been a client of mine, you know that when I say brainstorming, I mean unfiltered, non-judgmental brainstorming. Okay. This is brainstorming for you. Okay. You're not turning in a sheet to me. I'm not going to grade you on this. Okay. And this is not in a corporate environment where you might feel like all ideas are on the table, but not really. Okay. This is true brainstorming. And when you work with me, true brainstorming means that if you are really doing it right, 90% of it is crap. 90% of it is just not usable. Like you're not, I mean, it's like super crazy, zany stuff that is completely impractical, but you need to release that. You need to get it out on paper. The alternative is to articulate it, right? If you're having a brainstorming session with somebody else, do this with your best friend. That's a great idea. Do it with your best friend, okay? Get on Zoom, get on a call, get on WhatsApp, whatever, and go through this exercise with your best friend. But the idea is you can't filter it. It needs to get out. So it needs to be articulated or it needs to be written down. You can't go through these ideas in your mind and then say, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Oh, that's a good one. I'll write that down. Brainstorming is unfiltered. Okay. So 90% of it is going to be like useless. You may even feel a little foolish about writing some of these things down. Yeah, that's okay. That's totally okay. And here's the other thing that when I walk my clients through brainstorming that they run into is their mind goes blank. Their mind's good. They desperately want to write all the things. And then they can't think of anything. Okay. That's fine. Just write. This is what I say to people. If I ask a question and you tell me that you don't know, I will say, let's pretend that you did know. Let's pretend that you did know. What would you say? Or imagine somebody else in exactly your shoes. What are you observing? What do you think that they should do? What do you think they should want in this situation? Write that down. Just write something. Keep going. Okay, don't sit there with a blank piece of paper for 3 minutes. Okay, keep writing. 3 minutes is a long time, but do the work. Okay. So once you have that, these are all the things that you could want for yourself. Okay. And try to be specific. So if you find yourself stalling, but you put sleep down, Well, ask yourself, sleep how? Do you mean longer sleep? Do you mean better sleep? Well, what does better sleep mean? Do you want to, initiate that meditation practice before bed that you had been thinking about? Like, what are the things that you want? Be specific. Okay. Ask yourself how or in what way, or, all of those types of things. That'll get the juices flowing. Okay. Only 3 minutes. You can keep going if you really want to. Overachievers. Okay. And then after that exercise, okay, remember, 90% of it might be horrible or completely irrelevant to you or impossible, right? I want to go to space. I want to go into space. I want to go visit the moon. Okay, that's not happening right now, but I'm very glad you wrote it down. I'm very happy that you wrote it down. Okay, so of the things that are doable, are feasible, you have to get all the stuff out. Your brain needs permission to think crazy. You need to put down the 90% that's crap in order to surface the 10% that's brilliant. Okay. So look at that 10%, or however, maybe you only have one idea that comes out, but man, that one idea is exactly what you need. Okay. That's fine. Circle it. Okay. Next exercise. Okay. Another brainstorming. Okay. This 2 minutes. Okay. What are all the things that you could specifically do to make that happen for yourself this afternoon, tomorrow, right? Not next week, not like, you have all the best intentions, but these 5 things need to happen first before you can actually do that. No. What can you just do now? Remember, don't make this hard on yourself. Don't make this monumental. We are practicing how to be proactive. For some of us for the first time. Okay. Asking yourself, what do you want? What do you need? Okay. So the thing you circled in the first brainstorming exercise, what I want you to do is now do unfiltered brainstorming on all the actual activities that you would need to do, all the actions, all the behavior that you would need to actually realize that, to make that happen. Okay. It doesn't need to be sequential. Again, this is just brainstorming, throw out all the things. Okay. 90% of it might be completely useless to you. That's okay. We are trying to surface the really good 10%. Okay. So once you do that, spend a couple minutes on that. Keep writing. No filtering, no judgment. Just write it all down. You can burn all this later, okay? The whole point is this last step, and it's to circle the things that you can do. This is the decision-making part. This is where you get to say, I'm going to do something for myself. And it doesn't have to be the big thing, okay? But this one act of making a decision for yourself will create so much good for you. It is going to get you to a place where you're not managing all the downstream bad things. Okay? So that's what I want you to do. This was the exercise that I did to help manage my own schedule because it wasn't working for me. And none of the options that I had on the table were perfect. Remember, so I just didn't make a decision for a really long time. And I was losing sleep and I wasn't getting my work done and all the things, like nothing was working, okay? So I just picked something. And was that decision perfect? No, it wasn't. But having made a decision did 2 things for me. One, I actually worried less about the fact that I wasn't making a decision about all the schedule and I wasn't going through my day thinking about how the schedule sucked for me because now I was in the mood of, I'm trying something new. So let's see how this works. And now I'm in data collection again. Okay. So that was a very good thing for me. But the second thing was once I tried the new schedule, oh man, it was so much easier to make minor refinements to get me to a much, much better Much better schedule. So decide, what is it going to be for you in this crazy time? You can't control for all the other things going around you, but what do you want? What do you want? Okay. Do you want a better relationship with your spouse? Write that down, right? I get pushback on this all the time when I do relationship coaching. Well, I can't control, or I wish he would be this, or I wish he would do that, or whatever. You can't control him. He's going to be how he's going to be. But I promise you this, the very nature of the relationship is, if you decide that you are going to show up differently, by default, it changes the relationship. It does. It has to. Relationship is between two people. One person changes, the relationship changes automatically. It has to. The relationship is between those two people. So you get to decide, what do you want? What do you want? This is very uncertain. You won't see the end of the road here. And it's fine. But if making a few decisions for yourself helps you to actually illuminate your options a little bit better and help you refine your own behavior and your own situation, isn't that better? Isn't that better? Okay. So that's what I have for you today. So a couple of things. This 3-step exercise, I've actually created a tool. It's a 1-page tool. So it's exactly what I said. So you don't need the tool to do it. Okay. You should just do it. It's a pretty simple thing, but some people like worksheets and forms. I'm one of them. So I created this so that the link to that form will be in the email with the replay link. So you'll have that. You can use it for future decision making. You can start small, you can start medium, you can start big. It doesn't matter. The whole point is to be proactive. The whole point is to do something for yourself. The whole point is to recognize that you don't have to see how it all ends to make a decision today. The whole point is you don't have to control everything else in order to see changes that you want for yourself and in your life. It's a beautiful thing. Okay, so any questions? I'm glad you found it helpful. Yeah, see, people want the tool. I know. What is it about forms and worksheets and checklists that it's very satisfying to have those things. It's a very simple exercise, but yes, I will definitely circulate a tool. Yeah, so I do have, so if you go to aureliancoaching.com/email, you will have an opportunity to sign up for my email list. And my email list is where I make all the announcements about my webinars. Okay, so everybody on my email list gets to hear about these webinars first. So there's always a link to register. So if you happen to see this, through Facebook or LinkedIn or something like that, and you don't want to miss the next one, go ahead and get on the email list. So that's aureliancoaching.com/email. Put in your email and you're in. Okay. Yeah. So there's also, I am taking new clients. So again, if you go to aureliancoaching.com, right on that landing page, there's a calendar. So I will coach you for free the first time. Okay. Now, so it's what I call a mini session or a breakthrough session. It's only 30 minutes. And we can spend that time, if you want to get to know each other, if you have questions about me or any of that stuff, all fine. Or I will actually coach you. You bring a challenge, a problem, a decision that you can't make, something that keeps you up at night, and I will coach you through it on that first call. Okay, you will get a breakthrough in that first call. Okay, so this is for people who I haven't worked with before. You can sign up for that breakthrough session. There's a calendar feature on aureliancoaching.com. Just drop something into my calendar and let's talk. Okay. Yeah, so there are some things about just how my coaching works. So typically we start at a package of 6 sessions. Now this is for general life coaching, right? So there are people who want to improve their communication, their relationships, their decision making, whatever it might be. And then those are open-ended sessions. So we can sign up and you have 6 and we can schedule them however you like to schedule them. Some people do once a week, but it doesn't have to be. If you want to be really efficient and kind of optimize, concentrate all the coaching and all the insight, totally fine. We could do that too. And then I have programs that are specific to career strategy. And so those are people who are looking to make a career pivot, or they want to get into leadership, but they're finding that they can't for some reason and they need some help there. Or work-life balance issues. There are people that I've coached that they feel like they're not respected in the job, or they need help tapping into their own expertise. They need to surface their own expertise and get really comfortable with their knowledge and their cumulative years of experience, and having that mean something and how to leverage that. I have specific programs for people who need to learn how to network. That's a big one. I actually have a group program for that too, because everybody hates networking. Everybody hates networking. And what I call it is novel networking. So it is, you can Google networking best practices and you'll find a bunch of stuff, and that's not the stuff that I talk about. But I like to find a way that an individual can network well and comfortably. So it's going to be different for everybody. So anybody who goes through the novel networking program comes out of it with a way to network like crazy that would probably not work for anybody else. So those are my programs, but go through the website and you'll find all that. Okay. All right, guys. So look for a replay. I love these webinars. I love connecting with everybody. Hopefully this was helpful. Look for the webinar replay link, as well as the link to the one-page brainstorming tool. And other than that, stay safe, and I will see you guys at the next webinar. Okay, take care. Bye.